You can lead people or manage them. If you manage employees, there's a tendency to resist. When you lead people, they will follow you.
Welcome back to the show. It's Rick Nusky here. I'm your host. I'm also the luckiest person alive today to have you join us because on today's show, I have the wonderful treat to speak with business coach, leadership expert, and product broker at Flow Business Solutions, Mr. Stephen Turner. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Steve, is it all right if I call you Steve?
Please.
Fantastic. Excellent. Now, you and I were going to be talking about the negative impact that scaling a business can have on both employees and business owners and how people can avoid it to bring out the best in their business and their team. But before we do all of that, we always take a bit of time out to just learn a little bit about yourself to give some context to the call. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you living? Where's home for you?
All right. Well, I live in New Hope, Pennsylvania,
Fantastic.
and I started my business life at UPS, and I spent 35 years in corporate America, 34 on the management team of UPS, and that was a very active time. I spent 5 years in Europe
Yeah. Wow.
during UPS's initial international expansion. It was a great opportunity. Came back, went into the technology department. Actually, when I came back, I was over there as a finance director.
Yep.
Uh, I wanted to stay in international business, so to do that, I needed to go into the technology group. So I did that,
Mm-hmm.
and took an early retirement and moved into the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah, wow. Look, that takes a lot of courage to do that, and I'd love to explore this in some detail if we can, Steve.
Sure.
Now, in terms of, I guess, just backtracking just momentarily, and we will certainly deep dive into your UPS experience because I think that's formative for you in many ways, being that it was such a big part of your life. Now, tell me, where you're living now, do you enjoy doing anything locally? Do you have any hobbies? Do you get involved with anything like that?
Well, my wife and I like to travel.
Yep.
We happen to live in a touristy location, so it's fun just to go down into the center part of New Hope and walk around. There are people there all the time. It's a tourist area,
Yes. Yes.
and we're right on the Delaware River, so you can walk across the river and go to Lambertville, New Jersey, which is actually where my office is.
All right.
And yeah,
Now, I,
it's
I I find myself I really enjoy just spending time going down to the beach. Very much, I presume, like you would descend, being near the river. What relaxes you? What do you really enjoy doing that takes you away from business for a little while?
well, believe it or not, I enjoy sitting home at night
Yep.
watching TV with my wife.
Yes, I love that too.
And it's for me, it's a great way to wind down from the day.
Yes. Yes.
And one thing you can watch movies on TV and find things you want to watch and, and just enjoy yourself.
Look, I tell you, I discovered Prime, Amazon Prime, not that long ago.
Yes.
And I think
Yep.
it's absolutely amazing that we have this technology nowadays, Steve, to just, choose a movie at will and just flick on that beautiful technology in front of us, OLED displays and all this sort of thing. It's a really immersive experience without having to go out. Do you think there's still some, I guess, some validity in actually going to the cinemas?
Well, we do most of our movie watching at home. In
Hmm.
fact, we are watching a TV series right now on Prime. But we do get to the movie theater once in a while, just for a change of venue, I guess you could say,
Yep. Yep.
and to watch something that is current that hasn't quite made it to streaming. So,
Do you like the series, or are you just like a standalone movie type of guy?
well, I like television series
Right.
because once you find a good one, you can watch it for a while.
Yeah.
Once you watch the movie at 2 hours, it's over.
Yeah.
But Sandra and I enjoy watching TV series. Sometimes we'll watch 3 episodes at a time. It's binge TV, I guess you could say.
I'd love to get your perspective on this because when I think about TV series, I often think about the psychology behind storytelling, believe it or not, and how
Mm.
they
Yeah.
are masterful at creating open loops from one end of one episode to the next. Tell me how you find that part of it. Do you really get engrossed into the story side of it?
I do because like the series we're watching right now, which is called Goliath,
Yep.
it is it's a season-long legal case.
Right.
So you get the time to dig into the details of this case and how he develops it and, wins at the end of the season and the next season starts.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? I do like the I guess the legal and the crime series. Do you have a particular type that you absolutely love more than others?
I love the legal shows.
Yeah, all the legal stuff. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
tell me a little bit about, I guess, your life growing up. I always love to do this because it tells us a lot about the type of person and people that you grew up around. Did you happen to have anybody when you were growing up in your formative years that I guess helped you become the man that you are today?
Well, I think I have to give a lot of credit to my parents.
Mm.
My dad had a way of saying things with short sentences with massive impact. Um, I had a situation one time. I played football in high school and junior high and high school.
Mm.
And the team we had when I was in ninth grade or a freshman in high school,
Yep.
um, we knew we were a pretty good team. And our coach said something to me, at all of us, not just me, but
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of us.
Yep. Yep.
And I never forgot it. And it's this: you can't go undefeated unless you win the first game.
You can't go undefeated unless you win the first game. Wow.
So the point, it was nice. We had a team that was good enough to go undefeated, for one thing.
Yeah.
But number two is it expressed the value of time,
Yep.
because the first game is as valuable as the last one.
Yes.
And when you take that principle and you add it to everything else you're doing in your life, when you're in business, the hour today is as important as the hour next week, the hour next month. And we should value the time that we spend, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and just for on the record, we were undefeated.
Very good. Nice to hear. Now, you've touched on a couple of things there. You've talked a little bit, I guess, in a roundabout way about the importance of failure. You've also touched on the most valuable asset that we all have is time. Tell us a little bit about your perspectives on failure and how important it is to actually fail in business.
Well, you learn a lot of lessons failing.
Yeah.
And one of the things it tells you, I'll tell you, one of the real big ones is you're not subject to not failing. So the fact that anybody stumbles or makes a mistake is simply an opportunity to pick oneself up off the floor and keep moving. And we learn things we are experiential learners.
Yeah.
We can read books, we can go to college, we can do all that stuff. But the fact is, experience is the best teacher. So when people take advantage of the experiences that come before them, the opportunities, the potential is tremendous.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it was one of the things that got my business life off to a really good start.
Mm.
Was the fact that I had the opportunity to join the management team at UPS when I was 20 years old. And the fact that I started as young as I did,
Yep.
I was in a situation where most of the people that reported to me would be older than I was.
Yeah.
And when you're 20, 21, 22 years old, that's a big deal. If you're 40 or 50, who cares?
Who cares? Doesn't matter, does it?
And so the first lesson I learned, and I thank God that I learned it, is I had to deal with, how am I going to make this work so that those people will, appreciate who I am, and that I am a good leader. And I was just getting started.
Just get
So I
started.
decided this: I would just simply treat them the way I'd like to be treated.
It's a simple formula, isn't it?
Yeah, and it worked so well. I followed it every year thereafter, and I've been at it for 45 years.
Now, Steve, just before I lose my train of thought here, I think to myself about the different types of leadership styles and traits that an individual could have. If you're the sort of person that is more about being friends with people as opposed to being a black and white leader, what's the difference there, and how do you think anybody can adopt I guess, a more effective leadership style depending on their characteristics?
Well, I think they can.
Yeah.
The reason that I took this path was, first of all, I needed to do it when I got started.
Hmm.
But there's one thing you really realize when you take the time to listen to people.
Yeah.
They have a lot of good information. So I describe it this way. You can lead people or manage them. If you manage employees, there's a tendency to resist. When you lead people, they will follow you. Because the way to successfully lead is we need to treat every individual as an individual, number one. Number two, while we are developing them for the business purpose, we should also be developing them for their personal purpose.
Yeah.
So people are developing and reaching their personal goals while they're also reaching the business goals. And you can do both at the same time. I've done it that way forever.
There seems to be a shift in society and in the business place at the moment, Steve, where talking about achieving personal goals is very much at the fore for, I guess, the younger generations. They're looking for ways forward to, I guess, sometimes even leave businesses because they're not having those needs met. How do you think that leadership teams need to address these changing times that we're living in?
Well, I think and it depends a little bit on where you are, small business, scaling, or
Yep.
corporation, whichever.
Yep.
But there is a very expensive event out there that impacts everybody, and that's employee turnover.
Yes.
Replacing people is very expensive. And I'll give you a quick example. If you take the averages in the United States, the averages say this, and I'm only talking averages.
Mm-hmm.
The average salary is $54,000 a year. The average turnover rate in an organization is 9.7% a year. The average amount of money that it costs to replace somebody is equal to 7.5 months' salary of the person being replaced.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Okay, now, all right, we got those averages.
Yep.
And if anybody listening to this, if you take your business and you tweak the numbers to whatever matches whoever you are, you're going to find this. If you're a corporation of 1,000 people, now UPS is a corporation of 500,000 people.
Lots.
So you can just think of the magnitude of what I'm going to say next.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 1,000-member organization, 1,000 employees, and they turn over 97 people or 9.7%, and they spend about $36,000 replacing each one of them, it's going to cost $3.2 million a year to replace those employees
It's crazy numbers.
every single year.
Yeah.
So if leaders would take opportunities and tweak their leadership style so that people want to be there and follow them, that turnover rate will drop way down. Now, I like to use 50%, cut the rate by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
In the example I gave you, would save $1.6 million a year. But I can tell you from experience, you can do much better than that. Because once leaders are leading people as individuals, as well as members of the team for the business,
Yep.
they will follow. And here's a fact. When employees leave, they leave the manager. They're not leaving the business. So they leave, they quit based on what their manager is doing.
Or not
And if
doing
that
it.
manager inspires people by developing them, they will follow, they will not lead, and the turnover rate can go way below 9.7%.
Steve, you've obviously got a lot of experience in this area, and I'd love to ask you. I know it's situational, it's based on the type of role that you have. If you're a widget maker that's on a production line, you may not be able to be as empowered as somebody who has that autonomy to go from place to place. But how important is to give power to employees, give them more responsibility, and to, I guess, really help them grow, regardless of the type of role they're in?
Well, that's one of the keys, actually,
Mm.
is developing people so they can take more responsibility. Because once somebody realizes that they are not only capable and trained well for their current job, But if they feel confident that they are capable to do more,
Yep.
they will be available to do more. So now, when you get into mentorship, delegating new work, all you're doing, you're building up the confidence of the employee.
Yep.
And who doesn't like to be appreciated and reflected, generating confidence on anybody? You know, it's interesting that whenever I get into a conversation like this and I run across somebody that's a little bit hesitant on what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
I just simply remind them, put yourself in their shoes.
How do you feel?
Or look
Yeah.
at myself. Let's say that I'm a middle level manager
Yep.
and I'm reporting to the manager above me. Do I appreciate it when that person comes to me and says, "What do you think?"
Yes.
And you can ask anybody, "What do you think?" And I guarantee you're going to get an answer,
Yep.
no matter what.
Certainly, there's certainly a lot of people that have opinions, isn't there? Now, I wonder, you know, would this possibly go back as far as recruitment phase? Because I look at the continuum, at the spectrum, if you like, from the initial employment relationship starting in the HR component. Does this, should HR be looking for tendencies in people as employees right at that early stage to look for those leadership tendencies, those leadership qualities, or does everybody have them?
Well, one of the things that I think is important is that employee retention begins on their first day. It's not something to be dealt with, 4, 8, 16 months down the road.
Mm-hmm.
The way people are brought into an organization, which really starts with an interview.
Yep.
So if through the interview process, we determine that, first of all, we have objectives we want the people to have. This is the skill I need for this particular job. But while you're having the conversation, throw questions out there where that causes the potential employee to give a long-term answer. Like, where would you like to be in 5 years? Things like that. Now, once the interview is over and the employee gets started, the process, a person is the most moldable on day one.
Yep.
Every day thereafter is a reflection of the impact we are having on them. So if we train them well to start with, and I get into lot of detail on this one, but I'll leave it at this level right now. Train them right the first time.
Yep.
Number 2, explain to them where they fit in the big picture. The first opportunity we have to create a feel of belonging to the team is to tell them where they fit.
Yep.
Like, let's say you're one of 10 people and this is your role and this is what the other 9 people are doing here. And this is what we do as an organization. And our customers are this is your role in satisfying that need. Now they have a mission.
Mm-hmm.
They know why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So train to do their immediate job. That gives them the confidence of being able to do their immediate job. Then that gives them what I mentioned once a little bit earlier,
Yes.
but the confidence of being able to do more. So people feel capable of more, which creates an interest to do more.
Is this pretty much outlining like a career path for them?
Yeah. Well, it is certainly getting their career off to the right start. Every single person I bring in an organization, I expect them to be there long term.
Yep.
And I treat them like I expect them to be there long term.
See, UPS seems to have a very good track record of looking after people. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
you would have seen some insider tricks and tips, for lack of better ways to put it. What do you think the one thing they did really, really well in terms of leadership and retention?
Well, I have to say, and I have to speak from my own experience, but this is what I discovered, and I could see it in other areas. But for the most part, if you did well, you're left alone. So I was, and I almost got spoiled on this, to be honest with you. I was basically left alone for 34 years.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I reported to people for sure,
Yep.
but I had the opportunity to do it my way. And
Autonomy.
it just happened to be successful. So,
Look, you made a big decision. You've obviously embedded yourself in the culture almost of that organization, and you decided one day that, I want to change. And you went ahead and started Flow Business Solutions. Where did this come about? Why did this happen? What led you to this point?
Right. When I took an early retirement from
Mm.
UPS
Yep.
and left there and moved into the entrepreneurial world, fast forward a little bit, my wife and I started an online leggings store.
Yes, I've
So that's
seen
her
that.
bit.
Yes.
She's the face. I do
Yep.
the stuff behind the scenes. And one of the things we like to do there is to provide. We created our own website, our own system platform, and everything. And we made it available for people to white label or to lease the software.
Right.
So I actually started Flow Business Solution for the purpose of being able to help new business people get started.
Beautiful.
We had the platform. I knew how to make it work. I knew how to start a business. And with all my people experience at UPS, I could certainly teach them how to lead people. So that's how it got started.
Yeah, the formula was certainly there, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And then after a while, I went into the full-blown coaching mode where, I have clients outside of the business as well.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Steve, for sharing. I'm loving this call. Now, tell me a little bit about, like I've just mentioned, you had a formula, you've had the experience, you know how to lead people, you know how to coach them, you had the technology there, but you still had to take a chance on yourself. Was that ever a consideration for you, and how did you manage it in those early days?
Well, I have to say, as I mentioned before,
Mm.
because of the process that UPS functions under,
Mm-hmm.
and I did my own thing for a long time and it was successful. So nobody came back and said, do something different. Right. Now, when I moved into the entrepreneurial world, now I had to make the transition from corporate mentality into it's all mine now. Right.
Yes.
So what we did was I never forgot about the employee piece. And when we started to scale, this is where it's very, very possible, not intentionally, not intentional, but very possible,
Yep.
where a business leader doesn't know how to scale and add people to the team. Not initially. Initially, they're always okay because you got your solopreneur out there. Business starts growing. You bring somebody in. You work side by side with them. You bring another person in. You work side by side. So at the beginning, when the business starts to grow, and I went through all of this, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking from experience as well,
Yep.
that when you start to grow the business, it's a team for sure. The time will come though, when enough people have been added to where the business owner needs to step back, needs to go out and do the things that he or she is supposed to do to help grow the business because they are the number one salesperson, right? So that means let's say we have 6 employees.
Yep.
And now we take of those 6 people, we choose one and ask him or her, would you like to oversee the operation on a day-to-day basis? Sure. Okay. We have our first manager now. Now at this point, we're probably the owner is probably still hiring people. They just turned it over to somebody else to run the day-to-day. But the time comes, and here's the challenge. When the business grows enough to where there's another management person put in and we start to get multiple levels of management, there is going to be a day when the owner no longer hires the people. It now falls into the lap of somebody else. And one of the things I recognize is an owner hiring somebody, there's a bond there.
Yep.
When a manager hires somebody, there's a bond there, but it's not the same as the owner's bond. So what happens is the owner probably did not talk with the management person and really train them on how to hire somebody. They gave them the overview, right?
Yep.
How hold an interview, bring in who you need. But it takes the nurturing process. The owner tends to be a natural nurturer because they hired him. But that nurturing the owner does, it separates because they're no longer hiring the people. So now what happens? Now as the organization grows,
Mm-hmm.
more and more levels of management come in. So now when UPS started with 4 people at the corner of 2nd and Main in Seattle, Washington, now it's a huge organization. And now when you get to the point where you've got the owner always looking at numbers, has
Yep.
to,
Yep.
because the business needs to be successful. And then there's this management team now, and the message of numbers is flowing down through the organization. It's falling on the shoulders of the frontline supervisor, who I believe has one of the hardest jobs in a business,
Of course.
because they need to relay the number message to the people doing the job every day in a way where they're inspired to do it. And that piece is missing,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
it's never been trained. And we have been in the same management philosophy mode in this country for over 120 years. Now that's a whole other conversation.
Absolutely.
But but the the lack of people skills in the management team, which was never intended originally, it
Mm.
just developed because of the growth of the business and the owner separating from who does the work on a day-to-day basis, that needs to be reinstilled. So now I know that. So when we started to grow the business, we
Mm.
kept all that stuff in place. And when you take the time to listen to your employees, uh, maybe you heard the phrase, in the abundance of counselors, there's victory.
Yep.
Now, the interesting thing about that phrase, nobody ever anticipates that to apply to anybody in the work group.
It's
They
interesting.
look for the counselors out here someplace, which is nothing wrong with that, right?
Mm. Mm.
Mentors, per se. But do you know that the people that know the most about the day-to-day business are the employees that do it every day?
They're doing it. They're the boots on the ground, aren't they?
Yeah. So your employees are a source of those counselors. And when you take the time to listen to what somebody has to say, they're gonna tell you what they want you to hear, and more often than not, by a great percentage, it's very valuable for the success of the organization.
See, there's a lot to unpack here, Steve, because there are
Mhm.
so many different avenues. It's such a big topic. Now, I wonder, in terms of scaling, we've talked about the leadership component, but when we think about scaling a business, all of these ducks need to be in a row as
Mhm.
such. But
Yeah.
is there a time that you know when a business should scale and when it shouldn't? And what does scaling actually mean for those who don't understand it?
That's a great question. And I have to say that when we started the legging business here, that I carried that question with me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When is the time? Now, we started adding people relatively soon. The business grew nicely. But the next thing that we had to deal with was we had to relocate, because we started in our house, we were bursting at the seams. But the thing is, the the important thing when you start to scale and you start adding people, you have to remember to retain the culture and the reason you started in business in the first place. You can't throw that stuff out. You can't throw out, why are you serving the customers in the first place? See, another thing I learned at UPS, which was a golden piece of wisdom, was provide the best service, let profits be your reward, not the goal. Now, it is the goal. That's not the point. But in your day-to-day business, in the day-to-day process, remember, it's a product or it's the service or a combination thereof that customers want.
Yep.
So regardless of whether you're a solopreneur or you've grown to an organization of 500,000 people, it still comes back to, do you provide the service or the product for the best of the customers? And keep the focus on your customers, the employees who do the work. Yes, we have to take care of shareholders if you're in a corporate situation.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you need to take care of your own business so that you're getting a return and a reward out of all of your efforts. But the focus needs to be on customers and people and the culture of the organization. Why are you there?
I think about project management when I think about this idea of
Mhm.
scaling a business. Does there need
Yep.
to be a leader among the leaders in this
Yes,
regard?
absolutely.
And
That's why
who might that be?
let me just say this, once an organization gets to about 50 people,
Mm.
they have a second level of management in there.
Yep.
Now, this person, um, I think, has to have a good operation sense, because what you're really doing is you are managing a bunch of managers that are running the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I look for people who have the ability to keep the big picture, but don't forget the details. And by assigning I'll tell you what, I'll show you a personal experience on this one. I think the
Yes.
example is as good as anything.
Hmm.
When I was at UPS and I was in one of the accounting finance function departments,
Hmm.
I decided that since I think I had 7 or 8 people in that group, and there were 5 or 6 different um, sections of the billing process at UPS. So what I did was I took every single one of those 6 uh, operations, and I assigned one person to oversee that piece. So of the people in there, I had 6 people assigned to oversee each of these little different pieces of the puzzle. And so they actually worked for each other because I had 8 people. One person took care of this, and all those people helped her. One person did this, all those people helped her, and that's the way it went.
Hmm.
Now, what happened from this was then I told them, I said, you're responsible for this. If you have an issue, come and tell me. And do you know that nobody ever brought anything to
Oh,
me because nobody ever wanted to?
yeah.
So they worked together to accomplish the goal. Now, that is the mentality that leaders have to have as they go higher up the ladder.
Yeah.
They have to keep the big picture. They have to keep track. They need to look at KPIs, key performance indicators
Yes, sir.
that tell them the success of the business, but that they do not replace the employee relationship piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
It's very easy to only look at a number and forget about the fact that it was a person that did it.
Yeah, that's great insight.
Yeah.
You can't buy this level of wisdom. You would have had to have, spent time in the trenches, as it were, and educated yourself. And you look like you're a lifelong learner, Steve, because I noticed that
Oh,
your library of books behind you. Tell me a little bit about the books that you like to read that further your knowledge in this field.
yeah, absolutely. Got to keep going.
Yep.
Now,
So do you intend to write a book on the work that you're doing, or have you got a book, or?
well, we've got an interesting thing going, actually, since you brought it up. I do have an unpublished manuscript at this point with all the stuff that I have.
Excellent.
I just haven't gotten to the next phase. But we're starting something new. I shouldn't say starting. We started, it's been going for 10 months.
Hmm.
But we are going back into corporate America to
Oh,
teach all these business principles and all these leadership principles to CEOs who realize, and I'll use employee retention as a focal point.
yep.
But when we talk, and this is kind of the message we are in the process of sending out there, is right now we are at 3.4% unemployment in the United States.
Hmm.
4% is considered full employment. That means there are not enough people to go around.
Yep.
Now, part of that happened because of the pandemic. Because when people were called back to the office, the environment isn't one they wanted to go back to.
No.
So they quit. And they're trying to do things from home now.
Yep.
Well, the fact that they're trying to do work from home takes them out of the labor pool. So now in this country, we lost 45 million people left corporate jobs in 18 months.
That's a lot of people, isn't it?
It's a lot of people. So the unemployment rate at 3.4% means we don't have enough people. So one of the solutions to not needing as many people is don't turn them over so fast. So if you take leaders, keeping in mind one of the things I said is that when employees leave, they leave the manager, not the company.
Not the company. Yeah.
So if we go in and we train the leadership so that they're developing their employees as individuals, they won't leave.
They won't leave.
And you can cut. And I've got proof behind this. I didn't sit down one day at a desk and figure this out.
It's not theory.
Right. My life has reflected this.
Yep.
So if we can retrain these folks so that they keep their people, they will need less and they'll have better employees there because, and I'm going to mention another number here. Since 1990, the Gallup organization has published a number that says that 85% of people are not fully engaged in their work. 85% not fully engaged. That's ridiculous.
There's an opportunity there,
Yeah.
isn't there?
Yeah. So there's all of this out there that can be nurtured. Now, here's the crazy thing. That number hasn't changed in 32 years.
What?
So why? And this is the reason we're going back to corporate America, is because of this number and the employee retention issue. So when you consider that Gallup makes this statement every year, this is what tends to happen. People like me stand up and say, this is what you need to do to fix this problem, right? And there's lots of people that do that. But there are two things missing at that point, most likely missing. One, it's very possible, and I mean by a huge percentage, that a CEO really doesn't know where they are on the side of what do the employees think, because it's employees' engagement reflects their wanting to be involved in the business. And if they're fully engaged, they're there because they want to be there, because they're being treated correctly and they like being there. When people start falling away and don't like it, now they become what we call like stagnant. They're only there for the paycheck,
Yep.
not for the opportunities that are coming down the road. Okay, let me get back. So a CEO needs to know where their employees are, and there are too many of them that don't. They assume it, right? Okay, the second one is this. Once you know where you are, you have to know where you are before you can put a strategic plan together to get you to where you need to be. So not know where you start, you can't even make the plan.
There's just no way.
So for 3 months after the statistic comes out, people get excited. I remember back in the 80s, early 80s was empowerment season. That's when empowerment started to be the word.
Yep.
So they get excited for 2 months. There's no strategy. Everything falls back to the status quo. And 9 months later, the cycle starts over.
Starts again.
Thus, the number never changes, and we're going to change the number.
Tell you what, Steve, if you ever wanted a good marketing piece to open the door of a corporate leader, that is it. You know, that number not changing for 32 is certainly profound. Now,
Yeah.
I know that you've got a lot going on your website. I think it's important and timely to talk about what people are going to find when they get to your website. I know that you've got some training programs there. Tell us a little bit about that side of your business.
So what we have there, with someone goes to our website, you have an opportunity to get a picture of the training tools and the training approach we use. There is a free video available at the top of the screen that can click that, download the video, and it will give you an overview as to what was the origin of what we have. Then, if you like the picture, then we have an audio training series that really sounds like a podcast.
Yep.
It's a conversation. It's an interview that I had with another person, and they asked me questions and I answered them just like we're doing here, but it was 100% focused on how do you lead people. So it's an easy thing to listen to while you're driving down the road.
Beautiful.
And it's what's really nice about it. It's good for small business owners.
Yep.
Because it's not, it's not expensive really to download the audios. It's $297
Yep.
to download them, so you've got them and you can listen to them. And it includes half an hour,
Yep.
of coaching from me to help guide them through where they are. And, whatever happens after that happens.
If anybody
Right.
values their business, Steve, they're certainly going to get a lot of value out of that small investment, that upfront investment in, that knowledge. Again, you can't buy the wisdom. You certainly can fast track your way to knowledge, though. And with all that being said, Steve, I also loved how you've got this pop-up video window. That's really quite impressive. And
Yeah.
straight away, you're forging relationships with the people that you're working with. It's a real credit to you. Now, wow, we're already at the pointy end of this call. Tell me a little bit about the domain. Where are people going to go to connect with you? And when they get there, Steve, if they want to work more with you, is there an onboarding process? What's the process that you take them through?
All right. So anybody can call my phone number. It's on the website, but it's, if anybody's got a piece of paper and a pencil, the number is 267-753-5568. If you go to the website, which is flow-business, solution singular.com. They go there. There's a contact form that they can fill out and just submit it. And I'll reach out and we'll have a conversation. And you never know where it goes once you get started.
Tell you what, and this is what I really love about people like you, Steve. I can fast track my way to the information that I need. You're making the process simple for me. If I was a leader and I was listening to this show, I certainly would want to reach out to you. So if you are listening to this call, you are a leader and you're looking to improve the performance, retention, everything that we've talked about, and really we've only touched the tip of the iceberg here, certainly reach out. I'll be making sure that the links and the phone number are available below this post. No matter where you see the call, you can have a link back to Steve and his wonderful work. And with that, Steve, thanks very much for joining me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you very much. It was great. And I'd be more than happy to come back.